Hello and welcome to my channel, where I attempt to debunk ridiculous flat earth nonsense. I'm actually going to expand it out and start addressing, and I've said this before, but I think it's about time to have my computer refixed so I can get back into it. I also cleaned up my room a bit, so I have some space in my office. But we're going to start talking about incorrectness of humanity and how it relates to current events and also this ridiculousness that I wanted to point out, and it creates a stir because when the sleeping warrior creates something like this, it creates this stir within the flat Earth community. So it kind of is like, I don't know, smacking a beehive in a way, where you disturb the inhabitants of a particular flat Earth beehive. Now they're all up in on arms, and of course, Blue Marble comes along and does the debunking, and basic logic, but I've been arguing with this, and I haven't had an opportunity to really make the kind of video that I want to make because I'm just sick of Anthony Riley's nonsense. So he's talking about the horizon. Now, we've all answered on this video that refraction has a lot to do with the actual location of this horizon, and indeed, the amount of distortion in this video automatically speaks to refraction immediately. I mean, it's the only obvious thing, which is the problem that I have. And I want to talk about it because he's talking about the horizon being behind these, and it's not possible on a globe Earth. Where we keep telling him over and over with refraction, yes, it absolutely is possible. In fact, refraction is the culprit when we see farther than we're supposed to. And the other aspect of this that we tried to explain to you is that on a given day, which doesn't seem to matter to you, we shouldn't see the horizon on certain days versus others. So if you can consistently recreate this particular space, then we're all in agreement that maybe there's something to talk about. And you think it doesn't matter. But the problem with you is that it absolutely does. And why? Because in order to know what's happening in life, when it comes to things like this especially, you've got to ask yourself questions. And some of those questions pertain to, what am I seeing and why? And you've got to ask yourself why. So if you say, oh, well, I think I see the horizon, and I believe that Anthony and any of those other silly guys that have been making videos based on this particular footage are trying to put the horizon, I would say, right about here from my memory. This is a freehand line, so I apologize. Okay, so, that means it's what, behind these platforms. So if that horizon is always at that spot, always the level of the horizon, no matter what time of day or what are the conditions of the day, and we have an argument, and it does matter because it says this is how things absolutely are all the time. The problem is, if something isn't like that every single time, then you don't have a solid argument of any kind unless you can explain and prove why sometimes you see the horizon or Chicago across the lake, and sometimes you don't. If there is any doubt in your mind at that point, then you really have problems. You need to go back to school, request some additional education, etc., etc. I also kind of want to point out that when you're looking at this, you're trying to make a point of the horizon being beyond these guys here, where the horizon level is here. I actually think with this little gray area right here, this little area right in here, it isn't even inaccurate to say that the horizon actually might be right there. And then you'll say, well, what about this little boat right here? What am I looking at? I mean, we could review the footage probably and determine that it was a boat. I think that's exactly what happened. So we'll go ahead and give it that's a boat. But we're not seeing it over the horizon. It looks like it's between these two things. Well, I guess if the horizon is where I just drew it, then this one is before the horizon, and this one isn't. So let's say this one here, clearly the horizon's behind that. There's no argument for me. But I'm still thinking that the horizon could even be reduced even more because we really can't see what's happening right there. All we see is gray area. and that's also gray. So yeah, that could be the horizon. It might not even be the horizon. It might be density of air. You even use the little infrared, which is fun, but not necessarily the case that it filters out everything but the water. Anyway, what bottom line is, I can't tell, and that's really the most important aspect of this entire video. That you're trying to use this kind of stuff to debunk science that has been just written down for centuries. Something that you can't even completely agree on. Human beings can't agree on anything in this video, that image. Okay, so if we're going to a discussion about it, do this. Okay, I know that this is going to pull up one specific image that keeps being controversial over time, but we're going to look at several of them. Here's one example. So as we pull these images up and we're looking at them, excuse me, then we have to decide, what are we seeing? And if you look at these images that are sort of juxtaposed vertically, you're going to notice right away that some of this area is darker and some of it is not. Why? I don't know. Camera treatment, maybe it's just the day, but it doesn't matter because what we're looking at is clearly the Chicago skyline. It's clearly not all of it. The image varies in the size of the buildings, and why does it do that? Because of refraction. So you're asking a question, how can you see you're not even asking the question. You're trying to say that it's impossible to see anything over the supposed curve after a certain distance, and if you can, then it proves science wrong. But that's just silly, because look at all these images here of everyday objects that are appearing in the distance over the horizon with some distortion. So it's even possible that you shouldn't be seeing these at all, but occasionally do. And now that you do, you can't see all of them. And there's no way in hell that compression is making the bottom of this so much smaller. These things are usually about, I want to say, 351 feet to the tip, and these might even be bigger. But your standard windmill on the Wild Horse Wind Farm in Ellensburg, Washington, is 351 feet to the tip of the blade, or even maybe to the nacelle. But it's pretty tall, and it's at least 4 stories or so. So you're going to tell me that you can see all of the blades, and you look at the proportion from this blade to this blade. The amount of compression that you talk about that needs to be placed upon these to create a situation where this thing becomes like all of it's visible, but only because it's so close to the ground that it's compressed. It's so ridiculous. Most wouldn't survive it in this image. So take these images, you have to analyze them, and if you have definitive proof, then use it. Otherwise, if it's iffy, then don't. Okay? Stop it. It's just nonsense.